Okay. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our April Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Town Hall. For those of you who were, followed the original plan, which was to attend the Civil Rights Conference, the LGBTQ Inclusion in Vermont Schools, hosted by the Human Rights Commission and presented by Outright Vermont. We welcome you here. If you weren't able to attend, we have a story to tell in a little bit, but I would like to definitely welcome our guest, Amanda Garces, who is part of the Human Rights Commission, and she will tell us, I guess, Amanda, tell us a little bit about your role. And then tell us about Act One, and then at that point, I'd love for you to talk about your full slate of presentations and Zoom meetings that are happening as part of this Civil Rights Conference.
Great, thanks, Renee. So yes, my name is Amanda Garces. I'm the Director of Policy, Education, and Outreach for the Vermont Human Rights Commission. My role is mostly education, and I also do a lot of legislation to go and stand and talk in the legislature about different bills that come through. We are the agency that deals with discrimination in this state, and so we have we have 4 lawyers, and then I'm the one that's non-neutral that just kind of does a lot of the education. I'm also the chair of the Act One working group, which was a law that passed in 2019. It's called the Act One, the Ethnic Studies and Social Equity Working Group, which brings together 23 people, education stakeholders like the Vermont Principals Association, superintendents, Curriculum Directors Association, the NEA, plus a lot of group individuals who are appointed by the Education Justice Coalition of Vermont. They are members from the community who represent different BIPOC, disability rights. We have students too who come from your district actually, who serve in our Act One working group. And we have Indigenous folks. So we have just a lot of representatives. And for the past 2 years, we have been working on the education quality standards, which we'll be presenting to the state board, our final draft on the 20th. So next week, tomorrow, we're going to be voting on it finally. It's a beautiful progressive document that is going to change the way that we look. We'll also be working on looking at the educational standards. Very soon, we have an RFP out, so we plan to hire a consultant in the next few months that is going to be supporting that. So that's part of the work. So I do encourage you to check that out, that work. Tomorrow we have our meeting to vote on it, but the 20th, we will be presenting it to the state board. We still don't know the time, but.
Now, is that meeting open to the public, the 20th?
Yes, the 20th and tomorrow, all of our working group is open to the public anytime, so I can share that link with you. Usually it's in the Agency of Education, both meetings with the agenda and the Zoom links and all of that.
Well, the 20th, we're on break at that time. So if you send me I'd be happy to drive down there. It's not that far. So I'd be happy to be there to support. So.
Oh, great. Thanks. We'll probably be in Zoom because I'll also be on vacation. But.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll be on Zoom too. Okay. Okay, great. That's fantastic. And so tonight, I guess we'll get to this. We'll get to this point tonight. So tonight was going to be a session 1 of the, I guess, tell us about the Civil Rights Conference, the things that are going on, and then we'll get to what happened tonight.
So this is our second Civil Rights Conference. Last year we had it on housing. This year we did it on education equity, and we've had a variety of workshops. One was a Know Your Rights about bullying and harassment, mostly for students. That was done by our executive director here at the Human Rights Commission. We had a beautiful workshop on supporting educators of color in Vermont. This was a variety of staff from different districts sharing about tools that we need to retain educators of color instead of just like hiring educators of color, that we needed to shift the conversation. There's going to be an educators of color retreat coming up actually at the end of the month. So they were sharing a little bit of that perspective. Then the day after, we had the Vermont Student Again Anti-Racism Network, and 2 students did a presentation around the book from Richard Rothstein, and it was really great. And then we had a coalition that just released a toolkit about safety in schools, thinking about police free schools and things that it needed. So there's a toolkit that was released that day. Yesterday, we had a workshop on restorative justice and transformative justice, and the difference between punitive justice, restorative justice, and how we get to transformative justice. That was really beautiful too. There's some tools that were created there. And then today was our LGBTQIA inclusion in Vermont schools. It was a workshop done by Outright Vermont. Unfortunately, I had to stop the workshop in the middle of it, or the beginning of it, because a group was streaming the information. We chose not to record. There has been an increase on hate crimes for LGBTQ youth. So some youth were actually presenting today. We wanted to support them. They had requests not to be recorded because of the doxing that's happening. And so we decided not to record. And unfortunately, they came in to record anyways and stream it in sites that do not approve the work of LGBTQ communities in our school. So I decided to stop it in the middle of it. So that's what we were dealing with today. But then next week we're going to be off. And then at the end of the week, we're going to be honoring our beloved Deborah Lisi Baker, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. And in her honor, we're going to bring Judith Heumann, who is a pioneer on disability rights in our country. She's a lifelong advocate for the rights of disabled people. She has been instrumental in the development and implementation of legislation such as Section 504, the Individuals with Education Act, the American with Disabilities Act, the Rehabilitation Act, and the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. So she's amazing. She has written 2 books. She's also been in the documentary called Crip Camp. So if you haven't seen it, you should see that. And that's going to be followed by our amazing disability rights advocates in our state who also have been part of all these movements to share about what we can do in Vermont around educational equity and disability rights. The day after, on Wednesday, the 27th, we're going to have John Pironi join us. He's from the College of Education and Social Services, and he's going to share around his work on education affecting signing deaf children in our schools, and he's amazing. So don't miss that. So that's we might add a few more if I get there. So, but it will be mostly about disability rights the last week to honor our beloved Deborah.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for joining us today, but then also thank you so much for the work that your office and that the state is doing in order to support our students and to support, our fellow Vermont citizens. Just being able to listen and find out information that we can use to help others, I think is extremely important. And in this day and age where there can be misinformation handily available, getting it from experts it's very timely and it's very needed. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work, and we're here to support all the students and families, and to support you all with anything that is needed to move our work of equity forward.
Bhageshri or Ken, do you have any questions for Amanda regarding the Civil Rights Conference or her work at the Human Rights Commission?
So Amanda, is the your work at the Human Rights Commission in conjunction with the Ethnic Studies Working Group, or are those two separate?
So I am the chair. I was assigned as part of the 23 members. My organization has been named in the law, so I was assigned to it. But for transparency's sake, there's like there is the Education Justice Coalition of Vermont, who is really an organization that has been kind of leading this work, and I'm also a member of, but it's very separate. The work that I do with the Act One working group, the coalition actually appoints 13 members from the working group. So we work very closely just on that collaboration. So for example, they're supporting financially to be able to translate these documents in plain language. And because we don't have that much money, like we basically don't have a budget for our work other than stipends, $50 stipends per meeting for our groups. But so yeah, so they support and they do a lot of education with students, and but the work that we do as the working group, yes, part of my job here at the HRC.
Is there are there any? I'm very excited about your presentation that's coming up. I'm hopefully I'll be able to make it. I'll be traveling, but are there any? You know, as a person of color myself, I think it's wonderful work that you're doing, and I can't wait to see what some of the changes are to the standards. Are there any highlights that you can share before the presentation, or should we just wait until next week?
Yeah, so the education, so remember, we are just making recommendations. It is your support that's going to get us for them to really listen to us. And I think the state board has really been open and has been working with us and waiting because we really wanted to get it right. So this is a document that it has is a consensus document with all the agencies in the state, which is a pretty big deal. And I think it's just so the education quality standards is what kind of like sets the stage for all the other work that's going to happen next, and that is going to really place some standards, some floor for all the schools to be school districts and SUs to be on the same page about where we're heading as a state. And then a stagger. Remember, so it's April. By December 31st, we're going to finish all of the other work, including all the other educational standards, including looking at policies, and we're going to be recommending changes to statute if we see fit through the work of the standards and this. And so it's kind of now the state board is going to take that, and they have a subgroup, a committee that was created for them to look at and then start seeing what they want to change or not. So we're going to be doing a lot of education with students and families to say this is what we changed. But yeah, it's basically an anti-racist document that is going to move us to the right directions to support students from the LGBTQ community, disability rights, and BIPOC, leaving no one behind. And it has a lot of also just, we're thinking about multilingual families. We're thinking about everybody. I feel very proud, but I can recite all the things because.
No, I get it.
Well,
thank you and thanks for all the work. And Salilo, I actually work with Salilo. I've had her in my class, and she's in RAC, and I teach at CVU, and she's also doing some community service hours in my history class, and she's been wonderful, and we've been chatting about it. So my excitement is, growing as the days go by.
Yes, Salilo is really, I mean, both Joyce and Salilo are, the students' voice has been really important in our process, which is why we have 4 students. We started with 2, and they both told us it was not enough. So it took us a year talking to the legislature to increase the seat for 2 more students. So we are so lucky to have them.
And I'm, as the superintendent, I too am very excited that it will give us kind of the lift that we need to make sure that we're having these conversations as we're working on our curriculum standards, as we're working on our, how we expect students to graduate from our schools and even transition from one school to the other. Just having that blueprint or that additional language, that additional level of reflective processes that we have to take on in order to serve our students. I'm very thankful for that. So again, thank you for your work.
And actually, I should also say that Barbara, who's a school board in your district, is also part of the work. So you're actually well represented. And her voice has been incredibly important in our work.
Yes, Barbara is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for recognizing her. And so, the state board will vote on passage next week, or they'll just be listening to it next week?
Yeah, so they will receive it, and then it goes to an 8-month period where they are going. Well, it basically because it's a public process, so the soup will be open, is how we say. So we did a lot of the work, and to get there, it's taken us a year. In August, we voted for the document, and then we send it out for public comment. We received feedback from over 40 people, including groups and institutions. Every member of the working group needed to go back to basically get their feedback from the organization because they needed to come back to feel fully endorsed by their organization to vote on it. So it took us from August to December. We've been reviewing and collecting all that feedback and looking at it. A subcommittee was created to kind of dive into it. A lot more things happened to the document. And then since January, we have been kind of getting to the final vote. So it's a document that already received a lot of public feedback, but once it goes to the state board, it will be open again, where they will get public comment from different stakeholders. And I hope that it is not one of our stakeholders. So other teachers, anybody can go and say, we want this change, or we want to add, or we don't want this here. So it's a process where I would hope that organizations and agencies and schools, districts like you can support the work that has already been done by saying uplift the changes that have been recommended instead of really making it water it down or anything like that.
So yeah, I will be very excited, once it passes, because the support systems that I have come to understand here in Vermont with our regional superintendents associations, and then of course you've got the Vermont Curriculum Leader Associations and the Special Education Educators Association. So and of course the Principal Association will have to figure out how to support one another through this transition, because I don't know to what extent it's going to, how much of a big change it's going to be, or if it's just going to be just kind of changes to the way that we plan. So just want to make sure that, we're supportive of one another throughout that process, so we can make sure that we're following the framework for our students as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and we don't expect anything to change over time. We are seeing this as a long-term. Like I said, I think there are different pieces that are going to come into play, and collectively we'll, asking for a timeline that's realistic, and funding if needed, like when funding, not if funding, when needed, but that for districts to be able to do the right thing, and to do it right. We want it to be done right, because we know that what we're putting in there, if not done right, could also be detrimental to our students who come from the global majority, or LGBTQ, or disability, or students with disabilities. So we want to make sure to support. We're not just like, this is long-term for many of us. This is a work that we know that it's a lifetime of work for all of our students. So it's going to require all of us to really put our brains and to push the right things.
So for both Megan and Dennis, who have just joined us, we have our guest from the Human Rights Commission, Amanda Garces, who works. She has done, or she's doing work both for the Act 1, where we're adding to our EQS standards, and then also is in charge of the Second Civil Rights I guess conference, where we're learning. I can re-put it into the chat for those who just arrived. You can see the many different topics that are being taught over the next few weeks, and so that way. And we're very thankful that she is here to join us tonight. There was the original session that we had planned was interrupted, and so Amanda we're very excited that she was willing to come join us this evening, so that way she can give us an update on the fantastic work that she and her office is doing. And so I guess that's kind of where we are right now. And Amanda, I definitely want to respect your time. And Megan or Dennis, if you have any questions about the Human Rights Commission or the Civil Rights Conference, you are more than welcome to ask. And then Amanda was wonderful to join us after her conference. So I just wanted to honor her time.
I am not sure what this conference is all about, so I am somewhat interested in it, and I am late, as you see. So I am not sure what you all discussed previously, so I could perhaps engage in a more intelligent manner. So if I could just get like a briefing or something like that, I would appreciate it.
Yes, Mr. Francis, so we've been having a bunch of workshops this month with the Civil Rights Conference around education equity, and then we wrapped up today our conference of this week, and then we're taking a week off, and then the last month we're going to have 2 amazing workshops that I just put in the Renee put it in the chat. So that we're gonna just be talking about disability rights that last week, and education equity, and what we need to do as a state to move that forward.
How is the diversity equity? Is that for a particular district, school district?
No, it's for all. Our work is mostly statewide, so I'm also part of the actual working group, which is like looking at education as a whole.
The whole state?
In all of our schools, and supporting schools that want to do some of this work. One thing that I forgot to mention is our agency does implicit bias trainings for schools, for teachers, and bystander interventions too, to teach students and just people everywhere about being able to stop racist incidents. And so we do a lot.
I am a resident of the Williston, and also I'm a member of the Racial Equity Partnership. I'm a little familiar with Mr. Rene Sanchez. I have heard him once in a presentation, I think for the Federal Church.
Yes, for the Federated Church, yes.
Yes, I saw you giving, I didn't ask no question because I am not too familiar with school operation, and I think I am trying, I want to get more involved. So I'm trying to understand like what's really going on. I have a meeting sometime next week with the lead principal of the Williston Middle School. And so that's what is kind of piquing my interest. Because
Great.
I think this seems to be somewhat interested us to understand or get more involved in DEI.
Great.
That's great. Yeah. And so I haven't I did that presentation for the Federated Church about a month ago. And so the meeting that they have each week always falls like at a time where I'm picking up students or my own kids. So I need to find time to get back to that meeting, because it's a wonderful discussion that takes place there. And so for those who are listening to this live or listening to this and recording, the Williston Federated Church has a weekly conversation called How We Respond to Racism, and it's on Zoom, and it's from 5 to 6 every Thursday. So if you go to their website, I'm sure you'd be able to find it and be able to log into it. And so I guess Dennis, thank you for joining us. Megan, thank you for joining us. And so it's 7:30. And so I guess allow me to give a little bit of an update on our DEI director search and our campus DEI coaches that we are planning on hiring for next year. And then if there are any questions from any attendees, we'll be happy to take those. By the end of this week, we will have our slate of people who we will be interviewing for the director position. And we are planning on starting those interviews the Monday and Tuesday after our break, with the hope that the interviews will conclude within by the following Friday. So over that 2-week period, we hope to have been able to interview and then have a second round of interviews, and then be able to extend an offer to a director. And after reviewing the current applications, I'm very impressed by the 8 people who have submitted their applications. And so I'm looking forward to talking to them over Zoom. So that's number 1. So number 2, the campus DEI coaches, we've been having conversations with our principals to figure out how to best allocate their services. And then Bageshri and Ainika and I have been working on the job description, so that way we are able to make sure that they are serving the needs of the campuses, but also kind of serving the needs of the district level cohesion around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because I see these roles as really being able to work collaboratively with our literacy coaches and our math coaches on the campuses, so that we're able to infuse the knowledge within the curriculum, but also making sure that we're serving the needs of individual students when they need that assistance, and then being able to coach other adults when they need that assistance as well. And so we're hoping to have those posted the week after break. And then we'd like to begin interviewing those people sometime in early May. I don't know, Bageshri, do you want to add anything else to those 2 timelines? And then we can definitely talk about Community for Unity Day.
No, I think you summed it up very well. And yeah, looking forward to getting all those positions in place.
Thank you again, Amanda, for joining us. And, pick up the phone if you need anything.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great evening.
Okay.
Bye.
You too. And then Community for Unity Day on June 1.
So we are, CVU is hosting a Community for Unity Day. It is a day for many of the social justice clubs at CVU to present various workshops and speakers. And we're hoping that it will basically try to bring the CVU community together, hence the name, the Unity. It began as what can we do to end the year strong as a community, post-COVID, post some incidences that have been happening, globally, nationally, within our local communities. And so I'm really looking forward to that day. The exciting news is we have a local speaker, Jerry of Ben and Jerry's is coming to speak. So that should be exciting. And I think we are looking to have some food trucks, BIPOC-owned food trucks there. And so we have a lot planned and a short amount of time to do it. So hopefully everything will come together.
All right.
I may have, if you don't mind the interruption, I may have missed the day, and I think you said June the 1st?
Yes, it's June the 1st. It's a Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh, Wednesday. And
Yeah.
where will this be? Is
It
on
will
Zoom?
be at the high school at CVU, and everyone's welcome. So we'd love to see you.
And the other big day that we have coming up is that Saturday, which is June 4th. We will also be having an additional event. We'll have additional event that we can talk more about as that one gets more fleshed out. It's kind of it's kind of our we had a pride walk last year around that time. And so we're trying to design, I guess, figure out if we can continue that kind of that sentiment, but without necessarily a walk. And so we're looking to have something called like a CVSD community pride event where we invite others or invite the community to come and celebrate everyone. So, but that's still kind of on the drawing board for now. All right. So Dennis or Megan or Ken, if anybody has any questions about the district or Amanda's work, we'll be happy to take them.
Yeah, you were talking about candidates, I think, for a directorship for DEI.
Yes, sir.
And is that for the district?
Yes, sir.
Is this the first time they're trying to get a director, or was there a director and the person leave or anything that resigned from the position?
So yes, we had a director at the very beginning of the year. And so, but within kind of early in the year, she had some personal things that she needed to take care of. She had some personal, so she resigned for personal reasons. And so we've been operating this year, kind of putting things together between our lead coaches and myself, trying to put a patchwork of services for the year. And so we, as one of the largest, if not the largest district in Vermont, we need a person on staff who can handle the vast needs of the largest district in Vermont to help us with DEI.
Because I was looking at the CVSD website, and it said there were 3 candidates, and most likely it's a no. I kind of took some notes down.
Yeah.
So I have
Yeah,
to look at my notes.
We had a hiring, we attempted to hire somebody in January, but it didn't end up working out. So we reopened the search.
Okay. So right now it's a kind of ad hoc thing, people working with affinity groups or anything like that to help with DEI situations, or
We're hoping that when the person comes aboard that we can have hopefully that kind of groundswell of excitement where we're able to launch affinity groups on each of the campuses, and ideally even affinity groups across the district for students and for teachers and for staff.
okay. As I said, it somewhat piqued my interest because I am with the Equity Partnership in Williston, and I put, Williston is not such a diverse place, and the group has been trying sort of get some, I have to say, minority people to be more established in Williston, because people, they come from like Burlington, they work in Williston, and then they leave and they go back to Burlington. So, you know, they don't work, they don't live per se in Williston.
Right.
And that just seems to be a trend. So I know there are members in the equity partnership which has been trying to find affordable housing. So, you know, instead of people having to shuttle back and forth, they could be residents of Williston. And hopefully, you know, the community could become a little more diverse.
Well, I see this, I mean, something like that is a great opportunity for certainly the school district and the town to launch a partnership where we're able to certainly serve our students, but, you know, in the process of serving our students, we'll end up serving families. So
Yeah.
that's definitely something that I think that can be done. And so we're always trying to get on the town's radars so that way we can work together, because we can serve the students that we have for 8 hours a day, but, you know, that's an additional 16 they're not in our care. So got to make sure that we're available, that we're working together to look at, to have kind of this network of service.
Well, I just want to say I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to meet you and the young lady. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. That's why I'm kind of fearful of saying it. Forgive me, please. Okay. So, and I'm happy to
No
meet you.
problem, no problem. It's Begay, but don't worry. I'm sure we'll get to know each other and then you'll get it.
Yes, thank you very much for your understanding. So, you know, hopefully, you know, I will get to know you all personally, get more involved, and because I think it's a great work, and it needs, it's not only a great work, it is an important work. It's very important. It's something I think that people should get involved in. I want to be involved. I want to be part of it. So in whatever way I can help, I will try and help the partnership here. Perhaps someday become more, perhaps get some kind of affinity to the major group, and who knows? You know, it's an experiment. I considered all of this an experiment. So happy to, yes, I'm just happy to be here at the meeting this evening.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dennis. And thank you, Begay, for joining us tonight, and Bonnie and Ken and Megan. And I guess with that, thank you so much. Our next town hall will take place the second week of June, which is June 8th, I believe. Yes, June 8th. And we will make sure that we send out the announcements on who will be presenting. Right now, we have Outright Vermont as our speakers, and we'll let everybody know. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.